Kalimera. Welcome to the Consciously Connected podcast, friends. I'm Jaime Komer. I'm here in Syros, Greece, where the good day greeting is Kalimera. So here we are. It is a beautiful day here. The sun is shining. I'm next to the water and it's clear and I'm seeing the fish, and I am reflecting on this journey to be at this point and to be at this point with you, to be sharing this podcast with you. And I recognize that while everything may look beautiful here, I want to be very conscious and aware that, when we're looking at YouTube, when we're looking at social media, any type of media, things may seem glorious and fun and just perfect. That's the stuff we share. And so I am just acknowledging right here, right at the beginning of our conversation today, that whatever you're experiencing in your life right now, whether it feels stormy and wild and chaotic and frustrating, or whether it feels like balmy and beautiful and sunny, and I'll honor this for myself as well, of whatever I was feeling before this, to be here with you presently now, let's honor that. Let's just acknowledge for a moment, okay, whatever I was feeling or am feeling in this moment, in fact, let's name a few things. How are we feeling? 3 words to describe. And whatever comes up is okay, the first 3 words. Mine are curious, confused, and hopeful. We don't need to explain why we're feeling those things. I want to offer that space, though, just to check in on what you're feeling as a way to acknowledge it, accept it, and say, okay, that's where we're at. So whatever the day looks like outside, whatever we're showing socially, we honor whatever is actually really, truly going on inside of us. So thanks for doing that for yourself here today, here and now. And that really touches on the topic that we're talking about today in this conversation, this episode, is stability and instability, inside and out. Let's say I'm speaking more about the instability that we may feel outside of us and how that may affect us inside too. And the reason I'm bringing that up is as it's something I've been playing with and exploring for quite some time. And I think it's something we all experience. I was having a conversation with a new friend that I met here in Syros, and she was speaking about how, to be a location independent family, or to go travel and work and live abroad, or to not have a home base or have a home that you kind of always go back to, that doesn't mean you're unstable. That doesn't mean your life is unstable or that your kids are unstable. It could mean quite the opposite, actually. And it really got me thinking about, well, what is stability and what do we tie our stability to? Do we tie it to a physical space? Do we tie it to a number in the bank account? Do we tie it to, having what we might think of as a secure job? Do we tie it to being in a relationship? What does stability mean to us? So let's just play with that for a moment. If you close your eyes, or just, if you're not able to do that, just think for a moment, okay, what does stability mean to me? What does stability mean to me? I'm going to sit with this too, because we're walking along this adventure together. I'm curious what comes up for you. What came up for me is trust. Trust that everything will be okay. Trust that everything's going to work out for my best good and the best good of all, for that matter. And that, everything's really going to be okay. Trust, which to me is really the opposite of fear, worry. There's just trust, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be fine. I don't know how, but it will. So when you think of stability, I invite you now, and this is where we play with a little bit with magical metaphors and intuitive imagery here. Instead of using, say, the backdrop or where we are as that imagery, you're gonna create your own here. When you think of stability, what does that look like? If you put it in a visual, stability is this image for me. Maybe you see it, maybe you think of it, maybe you want to draw it out. If that helps you come up with that idea. What does stability look like if you put it into an image or visual? For me, what came up, and feel free to pause if you need more time to think about it. What came up is a tree that's neither super rigid nor like falling over, right, and dead and hollow. It's one that has very strong and sturdy and grounded roots and that flows. You know, it bends with the wind, it can dance in any type of storm, while though the roots keep it grounded and the soil keeps the roots connected and nourished. So it's a relationship between the roots and the soil, not to mention the environment of the tree itself that actually helps nourish the tree too, like the sunshine, the water, things like that. Wow. Stability. Now, if you think about your relationship with stability, where in your life do you feel really stable? You're like, yeah, this feels good, all good. Like it's this relationship, it's the money in my bank account, my job. It's none of it. Nothing feels stable. And honor that too. And when you think about maybe what doesn't feel stable, I'm going to ask some what I feel like are brave questions because they encourage us to look inward a bit and take really ownership of like the role like our that we're playing in our life, and which is a very empowering thing to do, I believe, and hard for me at least. Where you might feel unstable, where might you be attaching or connecting that instability or wanting the stability too? Here's an example. The phrase that comes up for me is, oh, if only we had a house that we owned. It's kind of like an if only if. Only if, or if only we had a house that we owned, then we wouldn't feel unstable because we could always go back to it. You'd always have that place you could go back to. So as we're location independent, my family, as we go out and about, if we had that home, everything would feel okay though, because even if this doesn't work out, then we know we could go there. Right? There's this belief that like if that home existed, then everything would be easier or it would feel more stable. I'm curious what phrase comes up for you in a certain area, maybe of your life or all areas, just in general. Notice like, if only I had, or we did, or I did, or if only something, it might have to do with having something, then I would feel stable. Notice that part. Another one that comes up for me is the number in a bank account. A specific number in the bank account. If only it was that, then it's all good, right? Now here's what we're going to play with now, though. You ready? Let's go back to that image you created. The image of what stability looks like to you. For me, it's the tree and its relationship with its surroundings. For you, it's whatever you came up with. Feel free to use mine if you want as well. Now, does that, if only I had this, how does that connect with this visual? What happens to the visual when we kind of really believe that if only, again, as an example, I had a certain number in my bank account, then everything will be okay? What happens to that visual? For me, I think of the if only if, say, a certain number in the bank account, I kind of think about, wow, if only it rains a certain amount, then the tree is going to be nourished and the roots are going to be deep. Like if only I get like 100 days of sun. Like it gets very specific and unrealistic because let's be honest, nature does not tell you if there's going to be 100 days of sun or not, or how much rainfall there'll be in the upcoming year. We don't know that, right? It's silly to even for me, to assume how much rain or sun will be here to nourish that tree. So that's kind of how I play with it. I'm curious what comes up for you though. The reason I use this is the imagery, and I hope this helps a bit. And then our belief system around if only I had this, right? We might notice there's a bit of a conflicting kind of confliction, I suppose. Is that even a word? Let's make it a word today. It doesn't align. My if only belief doesn't align with stability being this like beautiful, gorgeous tree flowing and very rooted and grounded. You know, there's trust in that area, but not very rooted specifics. It tells me that my if only belief doesn't actually help me. And I'm wondering how you feel about your if only belief. If only I had this much money, if only I looked like this, if only, you know, I had that home, then I could come back to. Then I would actually go travel because I'd have a home to go back to, right? What do those beliefs really genuinely at your heart sit with you? Do they actually align with you? For me, mine don't. They exist. So let's be very clear that we have beliefs that exist in our body from us, from our lineage, from culture, from human nature, that, you know, they may exist around us in our bodies. We may hear them. Now, since we're aware of those beliefs, we get to decide what to do with them. Very exciting. It's a very empowering place to be, this space of awareness for yourself. So now that we've explored what stability looks like to you, meaning in an image, what it means to you, where in your life you may feel instability, maybe where you feel attached to or connected to something, that stability being connected to something outside of us. And now we get to dive even deeper. This is where we really get to explore, is it truly serving me that my sense of stability is dependent on something outside of me? So my stability, my happiness or joy, whatever it may be, but today we're really focusing on that stability piece, right? Which really connects to, I think, also sense of security, sense of safety, really connecting to your root chakra in the scheme of chakras, your energy points in the center of your body. The root chakra is down at the base. It's like your base survival, right? We need to feel safe, stable, supported, and a sense of belonging, like to really flourish in any other area. So this instability is a really profound focal point that can have a profound effect in the rest of our body and our life. What would it feel like to have your stability, your sense of stability, dependent on inside of you? Maybe that first word of what stability means to you might come back here. Maybe. What if it was more dependent on inside of you? Is it possible that when we focus more on the stability being dependent on inside of you, meaning, okay, I've got this trust, I trust that everything's going to work out, could I then take action in my life, say to maybe change my job or to increase my income or to take this workshop so I can learn how to increase my income, say if it's around money? We can do that from a place of less fear and more of a place of motivation, excitement, like strength and confidence. Because that energy of why we do what we do will ripple out into what we do. It's kind of like, okay, well, I have to save up money to get a number in the bank account, but I'm always worried about how much money is in the account. That am I ever really truly allowing myself to enjoy myself and experience life For example, being here on this island. Do we ever allow ourselves to feel stable and trust in this very moment? I'm really curious how you feel about stability now. From the beginning of our conversation, the challenges that are arising, like say the internal dialogue, the questions that are arising for you, the areas that the instability, stability seem to focus on. I feel really grateful that we are talking about finances right now and home space too, because it's a big conversation on our planet right now. Has always been, I think, since in modern history here. Particularly though with, these shifts of changes with jobs and people just changing the way we're living. It's a big question and a big, big concern. So what if we shift it from a concern to, again, to a possibility, to a very realistic thing to address and acknowledge, also with a place of trust? And I'm also really curious what you'd like to do with that image, the image of what stability means to you, how you'd like to tend to that. And when you think about it in your life, like, okay, your life now, how would you like to nourish that stability, that image? What would that image of stability for you, how might you experience or nourish you today or this week? Nourish that part. For me, I'm thinking about the roots. When I saw the tree, I'm thinking, wow, the roots really allow the tree to bend in the wind, meaning navigate and just kind of really be flexible. The roots are connected with the soil though. So for me, I'm thinking, wow, I really want to give this week and offer myself in ways that I can to the community around me, to the people around me. So that's a, symbiotic relationship. It's like giving, you're receiving back too. It nourishes your roots. So that's what I'm thinking about for me. That provides stability, which fascinatingly enough connects with our sense of belonging and connection, which is also connected with our root chakra. So there you go. I invite you to honor whatever emotions or feelings are coming up for you with this experience, particularly because stability is it's a tender place, right? I mean, I'm standing here, and the idea of stability, I'm standing on 2 feet right now. But just stability, think about it, it's wobbly. It can be really uncomfortable and feel really scary. So whatever emotions do rise up with this experience, I honor what you're feeling and experiencing. And please know I move through that too. We're moving through it together. And that's what the space is for. So we can talk about it and be real about it, about what we're experiencing and what we're feeling, and also being able to shift the way we see our lives and, moving from a place of maybe worry or doubt in areas we may not even notice we're moving from, to places of possibility and compassion and curiosity and openness. I invite you to pause for a moment and just take a full breath in of gratitude for yourself, for moving through this experience together, for you exploring your relationship with stability today. And maybe as you're exploring your relationship with stability, you might feel new waves of courage to take leaps in directions you want to. Courage, whether that is to, we're going to go travel as a family. That's what we're going to do. We'll experience what it's like. Work and live abroad. Maybe it's something completely different that speaks to you. Whatever feels aligned for you is awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you for shining your light, for being you and all that you are. I'm so curious what we'll discover from this conversation. Please feel free to message me or share in the comments. I would be honored to hear and to know. That'd be super duper awesome. Thanks so much for joining me here on the Consciously Connected podcast, where you're connecting with what matters to you most. And loving all of it. Yep. I invite you to see me next week here and to share this with a friend or anyone you think who might be inspired by this type of inner work and also outer transformation. Thank you for being you, friends. Love and light to you. Ciao.